We are back. Let's go. Custom card vid number 15. Can you believe it? And this one is super special because I give you a 2-week challenge to give me your best custom card. There was no restriction. There was no keyword that had to be added into the card. Now, it was just based on 4 basic criteria, which honestly, I kind of already evaluate cards this way anyways. But as you're going to see in this video, I actually gave star ratings based on those criteria. So anyways, those 4 are balance, theme, creativity, and the art. Okay, so that's how I came to these top 10. There were a lot of incredible submissions. I'm really excited to show you guys, but really quickly before we get into it, I want to talk about next week's challenge. So it's going to be the keyword shuffle. We're going to bring it back to more basic stuff. Okay, so now we're just starting off with a keyword. Might mix it up, go to energy cost or something like that in the future, but right now we got shuffle. Okay, so this is used a lot in Snap right now because you can look at it as in shuffling Mjolnir from Thor into your deck. So you could do shuffle your deck things. You could shuffle the board. For instance, Quake will shuffle the locations around, right? Or maybe you want to shuffle cards in your hand, kind of like Crystal does. So something along those lines. I think it's a pretty open-ended keyword that can have a lot of fun possibilities. So I encourage you to get creative with it. If you would like to submit a card, just jump into the Berryverse Discord, totally free. Just a bunch of cool berries talking about custom cards and also decks and strategy to climb the ladder. It's really helpful. And then also you can create a card here and then you can post 1 submission in the weekly channel. Please only post 1. If you end up posting a different one later on, just go back and delete the old one. All right. And once again, there are no bad submissions. So just take your creative idea and toss it in there. All right, let's get to this week's top 10. Whoa, but not so fast. Before we get to the top 10, I always got to throw in my cards, see what you guys think about it. All right. And this time I got 2. I got 2 because, well, you're going to see they're kind of similar and I just wanted to make 2. Okay. So we got the Egyptian gods from the Moon Knight series, right? So you got Khonshu and Osiris. Okay. Osiris didn't play as a prominent role, but I thought the text that I'm about to tell you felt fitting for the character, and he was actually in Moon Knight. So there you go, 2 Egyptian gods here. So they're both 1/1s. They both have a very similar effect. Ongoing, draw from your discard pile, or ongoing, draw from your destroy pile. So that little thing, if you click on your little avatar, it's going to show you how many cards you've discarded this game and how many cards you've destroyed this game. You can see it for your opponent too, but that is essentially the idea. You're going to start drawing from there, and let's say it became empty because maybe you only destroyed 1 thing, and then you used Osiris, and then you started drawing from there, and then you emptied it. Well, now you're just going to draw from your regular deck again. So it's almost a way to kind of prolong your draws so you don't fatigue. You don't really end up doing that in Snap anyways because it's so quick and it's 12 card decks. But I mean, if that was ever a case, like maybe Lamentis or something like that, right? Get you some extra draws, you know what I'm saying? They also have the ongoing tag, so they end up working with like Spectrum or anything like that, you know, so you got to watch out for that. But for the most part, I don't think these are too cracked. I don't think they're too powerful. I think maybe Osiris would be better, you know, getting to draw from your destroy pile, because you could destroy things like Nova and then get that back quickly, and then it's another easy target to destroy. I don't imagine it working with Deadpool, and this is where this becomes a gray area. Okay, I have a few details here. So with Deadpool, right, he goes back to your hand. It's not a copy. It's the same Deadpool that you destroyed on repeat, right? To differentiate that, right, you could use the example of Swarm. Okay, so I'm going to bounce over to Khonshu here and talk about the discard pile, because if you discard the Swarm, you're actually discarding that Swarm. You get 2 copies to your hand, but that Swarm will stay in your discard pile. So that can be an available draw with Khonshu. Now, an option that doesn't work with discard is Apocalypse. See, Apocalypse, every time you discard it, it's the same one going back to your hand, and he doesn't actually count in the discard pile. Now, I want to bring it back to Deadpool and the destroy pile and why this kind of gets messy a little bit. It would have to work its way out somehow. But with Deadpool, it still counts as a destroy, but you still have the same one in your hand. So I don't know exactly how that would work. Of course, that's kind of an inherent problem. I think this effect works beautifully for discard specifically, but it's not nearly as strong for discard, because I don't know where or how you even start to want to do this per se, unless you want a bunch of swarms. Like, why would you actually want to draw from your discard pile? And it's not even that easy to start discarding things right off the hop. I mean, maybe it could be used as Hela protection, but then like that's only if you discard Hela. which, I mean, do you really care about that? So yeah, I don't know. And then it works. And then these cards also work really well with drawing, just in general. If you want to draw more cards, then that's great. But again, you have to set up for it. You have to target destroy things. You got to discard. Maybe like an annoying location popped up that you didn't want. It discarded a card from your hand. Like, oh no, that sucks. Well, at least like, you could use Conchu, get that back. Or destroy, like maybe your opponent Shang-Chi'd something when you play Osiris, and you can get that card back, and then you'd have to play it again. It's not free. It's not free. It's going to cost you the same amount that you played it the first time. So overall, I actually think these are kind of weak, but really interesting options to maybe tech into your decks just cuz. Not to mention they're actually quite easy to counter if they ever became a problem, because we have Enchantress, Rogue, Killmonger, Elektra. There's a lot of ways to destroy these cards or stop their effects from triggering. Maybe you even do that yourself. Maybe you remove the ongoing tag because you're done drawing from that pile. You don't want to draw from there anymore. You want to start drawing from your actual deck. So anyways, I thought they were pretty interesting ideas. Maybe not the strongest, but pretty cool ideas. I actually got this idea originally, I believe it was from Crow in my chat. He mentioned it. He doesn't do the custom card stuff. He just mentioned it and said I should make one someday. And that was weeks ago. So I kept that idea in mind and I wanted to use it here. So there you guys go. That is my cards for this week. But let's get into the top 10. Number 10, Nogolov's Proxima Midnight. All right, look how good this looks. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you can see the star rating that I have here. So I'm just kind of breaking it down how I came to these cards. I mean, it doesn't really say why one card will be the other. Don't add up the stars and be like, wait, why, Drew, did you give this one a number 8 ranking or whatever? It's like, it could be 5 stars, but it could be like 6, 7, 8 stars. Like, it's just at a 5-star rating scale, okay? And just for fun, just a little extra splash for you guys to look at and see why I picked these cards. So anyways, Nogolov, I wanted to talk about his cards in specifically because I've used him a couple of times because I think he does one thing really, really well, and that is basic cards. I read Nogolov's cards, I understand what they want to do right away, and I really appreciate that. That's something that Marvel Snap does really well. For the most part, there's some pretty complicated cards every now and then, okay? But for the most part, you read a card, you understand, you play it. It's like, okay, that's exactly what happens. So with Proxima Midnight, 3/2, right? Okay, normal stat line there. Actually, kind of weaker on the power level, but that's because on reveal, remove all cards with no abilities from your deck. Fantastic, I love it. So this is insane deck thing. If you're wondering why would I do that, well, let's say you run a deck that has half crazy combo potential. It could be like Onslaught with your Iron Man or something like that, and your Mega Red, like that crazy combo, let's just say, for example. And then the rest of the deck is your Wasp, Thing, Hulk, whatever else, okay? The nice part is if you draw those cards with no abilities, they're decent curve options. You still play them because they're decent power output for their cost. It's all right. It's not that bad. Maybe you even run Patriot just in case, right? You run Patriot with this. But the good part is that you remove them, and then you get to those combo pieces much sooner. If you're able to play Proxima Midnight on 3, or maybe even sooner if possible, if things are discounted or anything like that, then happy days, because then you can reduce your deck size from like 9 cards maybe to 4. Then you're guaranteed going to draw those 4 on turn 4, 5, 6, 7 maybe with Limbo. I guess I didn't do the math there, but you get the idea. You get to your combo much sooner. One interesting thing I was thinking of was with Thanos. Right? So Thanos, you already got the stones to draw the cards, right? Well, what if you removed all the other cards? What if you just had a bunch of no ability cards, Proxima Midnight, and Thanos? That is your deck. So you just hope that you draw Proxima Midnight, you play her, and then bam, your whole deck is only stones and Thanos. You play all the stones, which actually can carry themselves out of location, like with the Soul Stone and the Power Stone, etc. And then bam, you play Thanos, who is now actually, I know this is wrong, this is the old Thanos, but Thanos is now 11 power, so this is a 621. And that'd be like a really guaranteed quest completion for Thanos, which I thought was an interesting application. And then you have Mr. Negative as well. So Mr. Negative always wants to get to those cards with those crazy abilities like Iron Man and stuff. So maybe if we're able to thin the deck to make sure that we get those cards only, because sometimes with Mr. Negative, you get like kind of cards that you flip that are like, okay, but you don't really care for it. Like even Wolfsbane sometimes is run in Mr. Negative decks, and that's a lot of power, but it's not Iron Man. You know, you really want that Iron Man, or maybe even Mystique with the Iron Man. Like those are the target combo cards you're hoping you draw after you negatize the deck. So if you can thin the deck out to only have those few options, then maybe we're better off. So anyways, I thought this was really cool, but the problem I think is that it would be too powerful. Anytime you can thin your deck like this, it's just crazy bonkers. Like we can even look at America Chavez as being one of the main deck thinning tools in Marvel Snap at present time, and she's really good. And those decks do really well, and can be she can be thrown into a lot of decks. I think Proxima Midnight get thrown into a whole whack of combo decks, and maybe ends up being a little bit too broken. So that is why the balance has 2 stars, right? But the art gets 4 stars, which is so gorgeous. I love this. It looks so good. The color palette and the border and everything, great job. Creativity is great because we don't see this in Marvel Snap where you can just, boom, decimate your own deck to get to target cards. It's a fantastic idea. And then thematic wise, she's like one of the soldiers, main like executive officers of Thanos, right? And they're trying to destroy half things anyways. That's his whole quest. So I thought that was pretty funny. Also, it ruins Darkhawk. I forgot to mention that, but it absolutely ruins Darkhawk because you get rid of all the rocks. It gets rid of all the rocks. Subterranea, get wrecked. All those locations that are trying to toss rocks into your deck, get out of town. We don't need ya. Number 9, Clogged Drains, Puppet Master. All right, check out this guy. He's so creepy looking. Those eyes just so terrifying. And the red overall palette of this card looks really nice. So on reveal your hand to your opponent. All cards revealed get +1 power. And this is a 1 cost, 1 power card. Very, very interesting because essentially if you have 6 cards in your hand, this can be a 1/7 with the drawback of not being as bad as, let's say, Ebony Maw, who has a similar stat line, but has the potential to give your opponent all the information they know to retreat. So I don't know if it's gonna be all that good. I feel it makes opponents retreat like no problem. They'll get out of there because they're like, yeah, okay, so you have Black Panther, Wong, and Arnim Zola, and you just buffed it all. See ya, I'm gone. You know, that kind of thing. Or maybe Deadpool. Like obviously, you're just showing what you got. And usually, if let's say you have 6 cards in hand, then you probably passed on 1, 2, and it's turn 3. Let's say, just by example. Usually by turn 3, if your hand is what you've got to work with for the rest of the game. Those are the cards you're going to be playing to try and win this game. So if your opponent sees it, well, they'll either snap because they're like, guess what? The +1 power on those cards is nothing. I'm not too worried about it. And 2, maybe they just retreat. Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's actually a very balanced card because another thing is I said it's like a 1/7, but not really because you got to play every single card that got buffed, which it might be hard to do. So maybe you play a Swarm deck. That could work really well, right? Or maybe you play like Brood, who gets the +1, so it becomes 3 powered on all those Broodlings and that stuff. Deadpool's a good one. Get the buff on Deadpool, and then you can play it just to get the combos going, get that doubling of power, that sort of thing. I don't know. I don't know the best application. Black Panther was another one I could think of, but maybe it just ends up being a bunch of 1-drops in Khazar, and then you just play the 1-drops with Khazar, and then happy days that way. But I thought it was really balanced. It's just not a broken card. Like the fact that you get that much power is, nice, but your opponent seeing your hand is probably more advantageous for them than it is the power output for you. So in that regard, I feel like it's a completely balanced card. The art looks pretty good. Like I said, the palette looks really nice. Thematically, I thought it was lacking maybe a little bit, only because I feel like the Puppet Master should be like controlling cards in some fashion rather than revealing your hand. But I do really appreciate the idea of revealing your hand to your opponent. That's such a crazy turn in a game. I think it'd be a lot of fun also to be on the receiving end. So you're just playing your great game. All of a sudden, your opponent just goes, hey, this is what I have in my hand. I want to buff it, but you gotta have a look first. It's like, whoa, okay, that got interesting. So I think it'd be a lot of fun in the game. So thank you, Clogged Drain, for submitting. Number 8, Sam 135 Sin Eater. Yo, this one looks so good. This one stood out to me right away, and I really appreciate the idea here. Also plays into the negative ability that I was talking about before. But on reveal, destroy all cards with negative power here, +2 power for each destroyed. Pretty neat. There's currently a couple cards looking at Sentry over here that's pretty weak right now, and this could help him out quite a bit. But I like the idea of getting rid of the negative power cards. It almost could help your opponent possibly. So I have Hazmat there, but I thought it would be interesting to give your opponent negative power, maybe if you can get them to the negative ranges, and then eat them on turn 6. Wouldn't that be interesting? right? A nice little combo, big power swing for Sin Eater. Mind you, they had negative power, so they were hurting anyways, and you might have freed it up. You got to watch out. You got to make sure that they're not playing something big there at some point, but it could be pretty neat. Or maybe you're trying to get your own cards into the negatives a little bit, you know, push a couple 0 good effect cards or something like that into the negatives so you eat them up to get them off the board, like those rocks or whatever else, right? Just to get the Sin Eater to some crazy buffs. Mind you, you can only get a maximum, I guess it would be of 8, 6 on your side, so that's 14 plus 3. This could be like a 17 power card if 7 other negative cards are there, which is unlikely. I think in the most likely scenario is you play the hood and then you eat it. It's great, right? This becomes a 4/5. It's decent, but you get rid of the hood, which is always a good Happy Days thing. Sentry, maybe we do the Sentry on 4 and then Sin Eater on 5 to eat the Void. That's great. It doesn't eat it like plus 8 power, so that would be interesting, but instead it's just going to get that +2, which I think is good enough. Also, let's say you got Goblin. Green Goblin came over. Hobgoblin came over. That sucks. Nope. We're fine. Sin Eater gobbles that up. And I think it's a really good turn 6 surprise play. It's a tech card. That's essentially what this is. It does actually help with the destroy mechanic, but I don't know if you could throw it into a destroy deck. We already have so many ways to destroy the hood. So like this just ends up being redundant. So maybe you're just trying to avoid, I don't know, some of those goblin shenanigans or something along those lines, or somebody counter to hazmat decks possibly. But overall, I feel like you end up doing a bigger combo with this, with the Sentry or even hazmat. There's other things like Typhoid Mary, just other ways to give maybe some of your smaller cards negative power so that the Sin Eater can gobble them up and be one big card at a location. So overall, I feel like this is a completely balanced card. That's why I gave it 5 stars. And I was like, yeah, I could see this in Snap. Just a way to get rid of negative power cards. Makes sense. They're annoying sometimes. The art looks great. I love the color palette. I love how you made the text with the shadows and everything look just like the comic book style that is represented in the card. That stood out to me. I really, really enjoyed that. Thematic, great. Eating the sins, eating those negative power, sinful characters on the board, right? It's great. And then creativity, I only gave it a little bit low because, you know, we already have a lot of ways of destroying cards on the field. I'm looking at like Deathlock, Carnage, Killmonger, these sorts of things. And this is kind of just that, but with an added condition, right? It's very similar to Carnage, except it's only focusing on negative power cards, which is really great. I'm not knocking at the card and the idea. That's why I have it in number 8. I like it so much. But overall, it's not the craziest, wildest thing we've ever seen to Snap, right? But I think that's really good. We actually need a lot of cards like that. Look at MODOK. That's not the craziest thing we've ever seen, right? He's just discarding our hand. We already had cards that discarded certain cards from our hand. So I think it has a really good place in Snap. So I really appreciate this submission. Thank you, Sam. Number 7, SporiumCorium's Omega Sentinel. A 2, -2. Okay, so that's not very good, but at the end of the game, if you're winning at this location, destroy an enemy card that wins you the game if possible. So I'm just going to get this right out there right now. It's 2 on the creativity scale because what does this remind you of, right? Captain Marvel, very similar idea. I think it's a very interesting idea. I like this twist a little bit better almost than Captain Marvel. She's pretty cool. She's in the game. But this one's super interesting to me because, one, you're destroying an enemy card, right? It could be at any location, but there's a condition. You have to be winning the location that Omega Sentinel is at, which is going to be difficult because Omega Sentinel is a -2 power card. So now we're already on the back foot trying to claw back to win this location. Your opponent knows that they need to win this location or else they're going to get one of their probably extremely powerful cards or cards that's helping them out win this game destroyed, right? Then on top of that, once you're actually winning this location, you have to make sure that there is a way if a card on the other end is destroyed that, you know, you can actually win the game or else Omega Sentinel is going to shoot at nothing. Another thing is armor. Professor X. There's ways for your opponent to just say, nah, I'll just win that location, not even worry about Mega Sentinel because it'll be a total whiff. So in that regard, I think this card can be pretty balanced, but it can be absolutely game winning, which is kind of alarming for a 2 cost, right? You only have to throw this out on 2 and then figure out your later turns after that and hope that Omega Sentinel is the one that actually wins you the game. It'd be really interesting. I think it's really cool. Love the variants, by the way. My goodness, looks so good. The text looks so good. The main base card looks looks straight out of the game. Oh my gosh, so realistic. I really, really enjoyed that. That's why the art gets 5 stars. By the way, this is a good time to say that no card is going to get 5 stars in the art department unless you guys brought variants to the table. So only cards with variants are going to get the 5 on the art scale because you put in the extra effort there to make variants, and I appreciate that. So balance is pretty good. Theme is pretty good. Art is pretty awesome. Creativity, the only reason I'm giving it that too is because, like I said, Captain Marvel exists. But overall, I think this is a very creative card and very, very cool idea. And I also really adore seeing cards that have negative power. It's a space that needs to be explored more in Snap. And I feel like Mr. Negative is holding them all back. But it's such a cool idea. I love it. So anyways, I really like this card. Thank you, Sporium. Number 6, Fran's Taweret. Oh, I know I'm butchering that one. Taweret. I don't know, but amazing. Another Egyptian god from the Moon Knight series. So good. This happy hippo. Fran actually went through a bunch of versions of this card and was deleting them in the weekly channel and then re-uploading them, which I appreciate that, Fran. But there was an original version that I actually really, really liked, and I was going to put that in the video. But then you changed it on me. And I gotta say, I don't know if I like this one as much. I'm just saying. I still put it in because I still like it, and I really like the look of the animated version that you made, which I will have rolling in the video at some point here. But yeah, I like this one. It's interesting, but I'm worried about the power level. Okay, that's why the balance is a little bit low here. So it's a 3/4 at the end of turn 6. If you have the same power at each location, you get an extra turn. Whoa. Okay. So this is crazy. This is bonkers, right? I'm sure you're all probably screaming OP, and I kind of hear ya. But here's the thing, okay? And maybe Fran can clarify this, but I believe you get the extra turn. Like, my opponent doesn't do anything. They watch me do an extra turn at the end of the game. That's crazy, dude. Like, that's so wild. That's a retreat. I hope they can at least retreat. Hopefully they just have to click end turn, because then they're just going to retreat. Like, why would anyone stick in for that last turn? It would never end. The game would never just fully naturally end, because your opponent would just retreat, or you'd retreat because you realize you can't win, but at least Taweret gave you the extra turn to do so and not lose extra cubes. So I just don't know from that standpoint if I love the card, but I really do like the mini quest that is built in here. I really like when cards are simple and they have these little mini quests, right? We can look at death as an example, right? Getting discounted for every card destroyed. So in this case scenario, what you want to do by end of turn 6, which this is no easy feat. This is difficult no matter what kind of deck you think you can build to make this work, okay? You want same power at each location. Not just have like Cerebro levels of having all your cards have the same power. No. Like, literally each location for you has to have the same amount of power. That's so hard, dude. Your opponent's trying to mess you up. You're going to mess yourself up. I don't know. There's all kinds of craziness. Even locations, dude. Like, locations are going to mess you up like half the time. Like, there's so many that, like, sewer system or whatever, that are going to give you negative power, and then you got to like figure out and do some crazy math to make sure the sewer system is balanced with the other locations. Like, what kind of deck do you even bring to the table to make that happen? Like, that's really, really challenging. Not only that, but you also got to play Taweret herself to get the benefit. So that's 4 power somewhere. So you got to make sure the other ones match up on the 4 power scale. And then what if you get Green Goblin? Oh my gosh, it goes on and on. Hazmat at the end. Like, you're hoping you're at turn 6, your opponent snapped, you haven't snapped, you're really nervous, you're just hoping that you can make it to your extra turn, but then your opponent does like a Hazmat Luke Cage combo and just absolutely destroys you. Oh my gosh, it's rough. Like, you could try and make it so that the cards have the same power and same amount in each location, but it's just not going to work all the time. It's going to be really, really difficult to pull off. So in that regard, an extra turn seems pretty fair, right? Because he put in the effort and he actually completed the quest, which is not easy to do. But I just feel like people just retreat. That's just the way it is. If I know you're gonna beat me, I'm out. And if you know you can't win, you're out. So the extra turn almost feels like not the right reward. You know what I'm saying? But it's such a cool card. The animation and everything looks so good. Oh my gosh, the border and everything. Like, this card is so 5-star gorgeous. It's unreal. I also said that it has to have variants. This one doesn't have variant, but it has an animation, dude. That is I don't even know how to do that. That's unreal. So creativity is amazing. The whole concept of getting an extra turn is really fascinating to think about. How can that work in Snap? We have Kang the Conqueror coming out in just a few short days, and he kind of does that. He kind of adds an extra turn. I mean, it's not the same degree as this, but it's really interesting to talk about and see if it's going to work or not. And then thematic wise, I love it. The balance in the scales, trying to have all your creations at the same balance. That's so good. And then the reward, I just feel like the reward should be something as big and worthwhile as this, but not quite this. And I don't know what that is. It can't really just be power. I don't know. Previously, I believe the version was if you had the right and left locations at the same power total, you give them +5. I really liked that. But I like this one too. So Fran, as always, incredible job. I just love it. I love it so much. So thank you. Number 5, Flavi's The Totally Awesome Hulk Amadeus Cho. I love the name. It's so good. That's so funny. And the text and everything, that is fantastic. And the card art, oh my gosh, and the flex, look at that, is so good. So the art, like I'm only giving it 3 stars. I should honestly, I don't know why I didn't give it 4. Honestly, I like it a lot. But anyways, that's the lowest rating here. But everything else is so good. I guess it's because I don't have variants or anything like that, right? But there's some really cool combos. This card is so intelligent, Flavi. This is so smart, and I could see this being in Snap, especially with the way it works right now in some of the meta decks. Oh my goodness, people would eat this up. All right, so Amadeus Cho, I don't know, I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, but the Hulk Cho is 6'10 +4 power if this was not played from your hand. Yo, that's crazy. It's so good. It's so simple. And that's the beautiful part about it, because you Jubilee this out. Bam, it's like getting Giganto, right? Exactly. Okay, you hella it out because you discarded it previously and hella resummoned it. Boom, I didn't play that from my hand. +4 power. Let's go. 14 power card. That's what I'm talking about. Lockjaw cycle. Beautiful. That's exactly what I was hoping to get out of my Lockjaw cycle. 14 power. Fantastic, right? It's Giganto, but not restricted to being played at a location, just literally being played at all. It's so cool. I love it. It's such a good idea. And then the other flip side is it's a 6'10. So it's like, it's not America Chavez. It's got 1 more point of power than America Chavez, but it has the downside of not being drawn on 6. Or we could compare it to the other Hulk of having 2 less power, but the potential to get +2 more than the Hulk, right? If it's not played from your hand. So I feel like you nailed it on the power to energy cost ratio for a card of this effect, which is why I'm giving it 5 stars on the balance scale, because it's so good. And I could see this in Snap. It's such a good card. Very creative, very thematically on point, I think, because it's like the Hulk, it's in the Hulk power range and all that good stuff. So I really like this card. I'm sure there's other ways to cheat this out. That would be really fun that I'm not even thinking of right now. Maybe your opponent like somehow like pulls it out of hand for with Dr. Octopus. Oh my gosh, that would be so funny. Yeah, I just really like this card. It ends up getting, the only thing about it is it ends up getting thrown into those same decks that already have a lot of those options, right? The Lockjaw cycles, the Hella decks. They already have a bunch of high power cards that they're looking to do this with. But still, I just feel like this could be that card. And why not? It'd be fun. So anyways, really, really good idea here, Flavi. I really appreciate this one. Thank you. Number 4, Barry's Holocaust. Holocaust is a 4/8. When you play a card here, destroy it, then give this -1 power. How about that? I think that's really cool. So basically it becomes Death's Domain for you, which might suck because, you can't play anything there anymore. Even if you're using this as an engine to set up your death being discounted, you can't actually play death there. And now you've actually just diminished your value on playing Holocaust. Hopefully the destroys were worth it, because if you played like 4 things, I don't know, some cheap things like Deadpool, whatever else, right? Holocaust is very quickly going to become like 4-4, 4-4-2, or just even less power. Like you're going to be really chugging away at that Holocaust. It's your engine, your destroy engine, which is so cool. That's such a good idea because you want to do that. But there's some really cool combos. Like I already mentioned Deadpool. That's so good. Throwing Deadpool on repeat. Like, oh my gosh, that's just cash money, right? But what if another crazy one is, what if you use it like crazy as a like Deadpool regenerator, whatever, as your engine, but then you Viper it over? Oh my gosh, that'd be funny if you get this to like even 6 power or whatever, but then you give this to your opponent. They're not running a destroy deck. Now they're trying to play cards that if they can't, they'll just destroy it and get less power at that location. So you basically just lock that location in. That'd be so nasty, so funny. So I wasn't sure where it should land on the balance scale. You know what I'm saying? Like I have it at 3 stars because I wasn't sure if like, is this too broken? Is this too good for destroy decks right now? Like would they really like use this to the max and just like become unreal, becomes a staple, that kind of thing, makes your death super easy, and then you moon girl, whatever else. Maybe I'm not too sure. It does come out late. If you can only play it on 4, that means you only got like 1 good turn of destroying things before, turn 6 comes around and you can actually play that death. So maybe the late game-ness of it is good enough. And then there's other combos like Bucky Barnes, where you put Bucky Barnes there, gets destroyed, it comes back, Wolverine, Sabretooth, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of great combos, really good for destroy decks. I would love to see something like this instead. I think it's really, really fascinating. But maybe it's a little overtuned, I have a feeling. Because then you could also just literally do this on the last turn and it's a 4-8. And that's pretty good. That's a non-conditional crossbones. So maybe there's problems lying there. Maybe it needs to have a little bit of a power reduction. But overall, really cool card. Really cool idea of an engine. Now it's not just a location. It's my destroy engine. And I love that. Thank you, Barry. This is a great one. Number 3, Leocd Namora. This card, these top 3, in fact, are so cool. But I really love this card. And it's totally not a knock on Leocd for not having the art for it, but I did set this challenge out for art to be a heavy weighing factor in the decision making of choosing these cards. Some people don't appreciate that, some people do. Some people put a lot of effort into it, so I feel it should be rewarded. And it's my challenge, so we're just gonna do it that way anyways, okay? But Leocd, my goodness, I could have put this higher, but it's so good. So it is a 3/5. This card doesn't count as being here. So if you're probably reading this going, what does that mean? I don't like, what do you mean it doesn't count as being there? Does that mean I can play 5 cards at that location? No. Okay. So that's the only thing that this doesn't mean, right? It's taking a spot at the location, but it doesn't count as being there, which means Namor wouldn't reduce his power. He wouldn't lose his ability because Namor, if he's the only card there, he gets +5 power, but Namora can chill with him and he can have his +5. It's the buff to Namor we've always needed. And Orca, who just came out that everybody hates and thinks is one of the worst cards and possibly is, he actually retains his buff and he has a 5 power companion to hang out with him. Oh my goodness. It's beautiful. But here are some other crazy combinations and some that are not even that good for this card. I'm just going to list them off. Leocd, thankfully, gave me some help here, okay? So it won't trigger Ant-Man, Mojo, or Lizard, right? Because it's not there. So it doesn't count, right? Okay. Can't be chosen as a target for Hulkbuster or Arnim Zola. That's pretty interesting, right? So it can't be targeted by things. I can even imagine maybe even like Ironheart can't target this or something. Oh my gosh, can't get targeted. Won't be destroyed by Carnage, Deathlock, or Murder World. It's not there. It can't get destroyed. So cool. It also won't get the buff from Stark Tower or be moved by Strange Academy. So some of the locations, it can't be moved, can't be messed around. So it gets away with that. Honestly, when you talk about it like this, it almost gets a little too broken. Won't get the debuff from Spider-Woman or Soulstone. Amazing. Won't be protected by armor or Wakanda, but that doesn't really matter because it can't get targeted from any destroys. So whatever. It's like immune almost. It can be on a Galactus lane and still trigger his effect. What? That's unreal. I can't believe I didn't put that as like one of the like the synergy cards. That's insane. And then they go on to say that there's so many more other like things and stuff like that. Oh my gosh, so cool. The 3/5 stat line is really interesting, which you might have draw your eye to and be like, that's better than Cyclops. It's not. Cyclops can get to 3/6 because of Patriot, so don't worry about it. Namora cannot. She technically has an ability, but also she dodges a lot of the good stuff. I imagine even things like Blue Marvel, even though they're ongoing effects, it's like Namora's not there. Other things cannot interact with Namora, good or bad. Right? So in most case scenarios, you're going to set it up to be a good effect for you, but maybe you miss out on some things like X-Mansion gave you Blue Marvel or whatever else, right? It's not going to give you those buffs, which is kind of interesting. But oh my gosh, it's such a cool card. I love the idea of, like when it comes to balance, and a lot of people get upset about cards not getting buffs. This is how we can give cards buffs. It's also how we can nerf cards, but you release counters. But I would like to see more cards that synergize with the weaker cards coming out. We have card like Stature that just came out that's helping Black Bolt. I really hope that becomes a thing. I don't know if it is, but that's a really cool way to get Black Bolt involved in the meta. Namora would be a beautiful, beautiful idea to get Orca and Namor involved in the meta. It's such a cool card. And then it works well with Galactus, which is kind of cracked. But anyways, this is so good. My God, I could have put it like number one. It was really close. All these top three were really close to being number one. So it was such a good idea. Thank you so much, Leocd, for sharing this. Number 2, GTRichardson's Olivia Octavius. Yo, this is so good. This one right here. The only thing holding me back is potential balance, okay? And it's also a little bit complicated, but once I explain it, I think it'll hopefully help. So Olivia here is a 1 -7. Ouch. You're kind of like your reverse Ebony Maw up in here, okay? On reveal, any unrevealed cards at this location trade sides. Now, a key part here is the on-reveal aspect of it, right? So imagine if you have priority, your opponent played 2 cards at that location at the same turn that you played Olivia, then you're going to pull them over. That's great, right? But if you don't have priority, it'll almost be impossible to actually pull this off, and then it's a 1 -7. Fortunately, going into the turn of playing Olivia, you will know if that is the case scenario. And the other thing is, okay, that's great. You stole 2 cards from your opponent, but you just gave yourself -7 power. The only way around this I could envision is like a Killmonger, which almost makes me want to make this a 2 energy -7, because that makes it even worse. Stat line can't be destroyed by kill, right? Because you wouldn't really want to Carnage or Deathlock the location that you stole 2 cards at. Maybe you do. Maybe you end up wanting to do that. But I think for the most part, this kind of gets a little bit broken in that you just wait for your opponent to have priority on one of those important turns, and you take those cards. You sack that location maybe because you took like an Ultron maybe, or like, I don't know, even Galactus, or I don't know, you can imagine you end up taking a whole bunch of stuff. There's a lot of possibilities, right? That you could steal cards from your opponent and have a crazy, crazy big swing. But it is so cool because it's the Dr. Octopus pulling things from the hand, while Olivia is pulling those unrevealed cards from your opponent's side of the board. So thematically, it's so on point. I adore it. The art is gorgeous. My goodness, look at these variants. This is like the kind of variance in the variants. I hope you caught me there. But you know what I'm saying? That you see in Snap, the varying types of art styles. And I love it. It looks so, so cool. I think that's even a couple of artists that actively make art in the game right now. It's like almost set up to be in the game. I'm here for it. And then creativity is so cool. Messing around with unrevealed cards is a fascinating concept, I think, and the -7 power is really interesting to me as well. Another really good counter to use this against other decks that JTRichardson mentioned is against Invisible Woman. Your opponent's trying to set up that Hela play. They're doing everything they can. They finally got Invisible Woman. They've been playing 5-10 games in a row for this combo to be pulled off, and then you just pull everything over to your side before they can play Hela or something like that, so that you get all their discard cards. So yeah, your hand just got absolutely destroyed, right? It's all discarded. But then they play Hela at nothing, or maybe you take their Hela too. Oh my gosh, I don't even know. I imagine you could only fill up your side of the board. So maybe if you had 2 or 3 cards there, you'd only be able to pull 1 if you played Olivia, something along those lines. But yeah, just really, really interesting stealing. And you got to watch out. You can't play something at the same location unless you want to give it to your opponent. Maybe you even want to give them a hood, right? So you play play Olivia and the Hood, and you have priority, right? You have priority. So your opponent played 2 cards. You would get the 2 cards that they played. You would give them the Hood, because it's a trade. It swaps around the unrevealed cards. That'd be really funny. Another location is, I believe, Lemuria is the location. I think that's the name of it. The one that swirls around with the water and then says that cards aren't revealed this turn. That kind of just sets up another opportunity for Olivia to grab some more stuff. But it's only at that location, so it's not too crazy. But I just feel like at the end of the day, like taking your opponent's cards is so brutal to their combos. And the conditions aren't too difficult to meet here, right? You just got to make sure that you have prio going into the turn. So pretty interesting. Maybe give your opponent Ghost, you Viper over Ghost, that you can do this easy. But anyways, really cool idea. I love the art. It's so good. And overall package thematically is beautiful. So thank you so much for the submission. Yeah. Yes. This card. I love this card. I've been waiting to put a Stan Lee in the custom card videos for so long, but it just never found the one that felt right. And JackPack at number 1 nailed it. This is so good. This is so good on so many levels. It's unreal. And it's also 6 cost, which is kind of nice to see. We don't see those all too often anymore. But there you go, a 6/1. That's terrible. No, obviously you're not playing this card for the power output. It's the quest. It's the condition that you have to meet that is so fascinating. It's for such cool deck building. So at the end of the game, if you spent all your energy each turn, fill your board with random cards. Okay, incredible quest. I'm going to get into that in a second. But then also second, thematically wise, holy full marks here, because it's Stan Lee. He made the entire Marvel universe, and he's going to just throw out a bunch of Marvel characters. Like, I could imagine like a paintbrush or something is the animation, and it just kind of draws the cards on the board and fills it all out. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. I want it so bad. Please, Team Second Dinner, if you watch any of these cards, please have a look at this one, because it's so good. It's such a good tribute to Stan Lee, and using the signature and the artwork, and the artwork has all the classic characters in the background, like the Thing with the big smile and everything. Oh my gosh, it's so good. This gets me so excited. But then let's talk about the quest. That is not an easy quest to complete, right? What if Project Pegasus happens or something, and you get bonus energy and you can't use it all? You miss 1 point of energy. If you have 1 bit of unspent energy, I've never seen a card that hates Sunspot more. Sunspot never works in this kind of deck. But regardless, you have 1 unspent energy, boom, that's it. You can't play your Stan Lee. So it's time to bring out the curve. You gotta put Quicksilver in your deck. You gotta put Domino. You could put America Chavez if, I don't know, somehow your opponent does a limbo, but then you gotta hope that you have another 1-drop on turn 7 to pair with your Stan Lee. So my goodness, it's not easy to do. It's hard, dude. There's a lot of like unknown factors that are going to pop up in your games that make it very difficult, including your draws. Because even though we have the Quicksilver Domino, then you're kind of just on your own. You got to like hopefully have a 3-drop, a 4-drop, a 5-drop, and then draw Stan Lee. Because if you don't get the payoff in Stan Lee, then you just played Quicksilver on 1 and Domino on 2. You're not winning this game so far. So you're in a tough spot. And then it's random. You play Stan Lee and you just hope for the best. Because also, if you've played up to this point, let's say you played perfectly on curve, you've played 5 cards. There's only 12 available spots, means Stan Lee is going to take a spot, right? So he's only summoning 6 completely random cards, random Marvel characters, and those could be trash. It could be a goblin that just ends up going in the same lane as a full lane, and you're like, oh gosh, okay, that was a bad roll, and then you just hope for some like a couple Hulks here and there. Like, oh my gosh, it'd be so funny. It'd be so good. Another one is Dazzler. You never see Dazzler. I don't think I've ever seen Dazzler because nobody wanted to buy this card with tokens. It's crazy, but it would work really well in this deck because you just know Stan Lee's gonna complete the Dazzler's quest right away, right? So it's like a 2-for-1. one is super good. And then that's 10 power. At least maybe that can hold its own. I don't know. What else do you do? Maybe Devil Dino, because you're not playing a whole lot of cards. So maybe you run Devil Dino, you play Dino on 5. And that's kind of the curve. Turn 3, I don't even know what you do. Oh my gosh, it's just so good. It's just so cool. I love the idea of it. It would not win a lot of games. It wouldn't be that strong of a card, and that is okay. A card like this, and especially a character like Stan Lee, you can't have Stan Lee being the top meta card. Come on, like, that's a bit wacky, right? A card like this does well in the Agatha Harkness department, you know? Like those really fun to play. Maybe I'll go on a crazy tear and get some good cubage out of this, you know? Because the RNG gods have just blessed me. But for the most part, it's just for having fun and kicking back and enjoying your Marvel Snap times, right? And I think this is just the perfect card. I love this card so much. This is an incredible card. All right, that's gonna do it for me, man. These were some awesome submissions. Thank you everyone who submitted a card. If you want to submit a shuffle card, jump into the Berryverse Discord. We would be happy to have you. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.